I've been writing a blog for years now, a regular blog, and I always knew that I would be writing about this experience. I've been writing my journal since I was 20, and so of course I was writing my journal a lot while I was going through this whole process, while Philip had cancer, after he died and everything. And I kind of always knew I would write about it. I didn't really think it was going to be a book particularly, but I trusted that one morning I would wake up and I would know I had to write, and that's exactly what happened. I was away on holiday, I got clear about it, and I reorganised my schedule and started writing a couple of hours a day, and within 6 months the first draft was done. I think that I knew it was going to be a book right from the beginning, because I've written books before, but I didn't realise it was going to have the life of its own until about 3/4 of the way through writing it, when I realised that it didn't feel like it was me writing it. It felt like it was writing itself through me. And then it became clear that I just had to show up and do the writing, which is what happened. And then the next thing was that the editing had to happen. It was almost as if I was being told by something else to do that. And once the editing was done, then the marketing had to be done. And once the marketing is done and it's out there, there'll probably be another task for me to do. I have to wait and see. I think part of the process of what happened to me in the grieving of Philip was I paid far more attention to how my intuition was showing up. I discovered that it was very subtle, and that if I listened to even just a thought that would pop into my head, it would often turn out to be an intuitive thought rather than something that I just thought was a good idea or something like that, or not a good idea. And because I practiced a lot listening to that, when the idea for the book came, it was so clear. I could do nothing but pay attention to it. And it became the driving force then for the rest of, well, I didn't know how long it was going to go on for, but for the rest of that period of time. So is that a spiritual calling? Well, you could certainly describe it as that. I didn't describe it as that at the time. I just was acting on what I knew needed to be done. You know when you know you have to take action, you just do it, don't you? It was certainly cathartic for the beginning period, particularly because I had to go back over my journals and see what I'd written, and I was shocked at how raw it was, and I was shocked at how painful it was, because I'd forgotten. This is about 2.5 years on, and I'd relived it, and that was difficult. It was after that period of time, when I was going through the journals after he had died, and I had begun to discover some things for myself, some of the gifts, that I began to realise this is something that needs to be shared, not just with immediate family and friends. This is much bigger. It needs to go out there in a much bigger way. And that's my job, is to get it out there as much as possible, because we think that death and grief are bad things. We don't talk about death in society. It's like, it's almost taboo. And I really want to address that, because my God, it's a normal part of life, and it's the one thing that's going to happen to us all. So part of my mission with this is not just for people to find the gifts in their grief, but also to become more familiar with death and with dying and with the associated grieving, and for that to be okay. It may not be your preference, but it is still okay. You know, people have always told me that they've always admired my honesty, and they've always told me that I'm courageous or brave. And the thing about feeling brave and courageous, well, actually you can't feel brave and courageous. Usually when you're being brave and courageous, you're feeling terrified. So what I've managed to do is just to take the actions anyway, even if I am terrified. It looks like bravery on the outside, and inside it doesn't feel like that at all. I have always been pretty honest in terms of saying things as they are. You know, I like to call a spade a spade. I probably don't suffer fools very gladly. If there's an elephant in the room, I'll say, oh, look, there's an elephant. And I guess in a way that's what I'm doing with death and with grief. It's like, it's here, folks, you know, we need to pay attention to it. What I discovered by doing that for myself, although I'm not sure I fully realised I was doing it exactly as I'm describing it, I'm not sure I fully realised I was doing that at the time, but it became obvious that in the welcoming in of these things, death and all that it brings with it, all the emotions, in the welcoming in of it, as opposed to trying to push it away, it can come in, it can give you its messages, it can make itself known, it can leave its gifts, and then it can depart. And that's what happened. That's what happened for me with all of the emotions that I was feeling, and I was feeling loads of them. Anger, particularly anger, sadness, tears. I personally didn't have a lot of fear. I know a lot of people do feel fear. So my suggestion to you is that when these emotions come knocking at the front door of your house, that instead of locking the door and putting up the bolts and battening down the hatches, that you actually open the door wide and you welcome it in. It's scary to do, yeah, but you just do that. At the same time, you open the back door so that the emotion can come in, can have a little nosy around, it can leave its gifts, and then it can depart really easily. That's actually what happened to me, and that's what I help other people with as well. What blessing do I wish for my book? Actually, let's turn that around the other way. The book has a blessing for me and for everybody else. It has a gift in itself for me and for everyone else. For me, because of what I went through and the writing of it. And it in itself is a gift, which is why it's why the cover is the way it is. It is actually a gift for anybody who's going through grief, to help them find a gift. My guess is that you're going to find lots of gifts, but if you only get one, if a reader only gets one gift, then it will have done its job and I'll be very happy. Yeah, I'm sitting in the grounds of the Newbold House Retreat Centre, and this is the place where Philip and I had just moved in to become part of this small community, a holistic community holding retreats and workshops for other people. And about a week after we had moved in, he was diagnosed with cancer. And it became very obvious within the next few months that we were not going to be able to stay. However, by the end of that period of time, we had made a lot of really good friends, and it is a place that is very dear to both our hearts. It was going to be the beginning of a new stage of our lives together, and we didn't realise it was going to be the beginning of a different stage entirely, but I'm really just delighted to be here and to be able to do it here in such a very loving and a very healing place, because although Philip may not have healed physically, my God, the amount of healing he did in the 14 months he had from diagnosis to death was amazing, amazing, which blessed me as well. And that's another gift in the book, actually, to understand that just because somebody dies doesn't mean to say that there isn't a gift in that whole process.